Okay, so I want to start with a bit of a sensory experiment. It's not exactly a pleasant one, so just bear with me for a second.
I'm ready.
I want you to imagine you are standing on the deck of a ferry.
Oh.
But this isn't, some holiday cruise in the Med. You're definitely not holding a cocktail.
Okay.
You are crossing the Minch, that notoriously rough stretch of water between the Scottish mainland and the Outer Hebrides.
Right. It's a stretch of water that has turned many a stomach over the centuries, I can imagine.
Totally. And the weather, it's just atrocious. The rain isn't just falling down, it is driving sideways, slanted, relentless, the kind of rain that just finds its way into your bones. But the thing that really struck me in our source material wasn't the wetness, it was the sound. You'd expect the crashing of waves, right? That sort of cinematic roar.
Sure, that's the standard sound design for stormy sea.
Exactly. But our source, Douglas Stuart's novel, John of John, he describes it so differently. He describes the sound of the ferry engine as this muffled whoosh, like a murmuring ventricle. A heartbeat, that is. Struggling.
Wow. That is such a specific, visceral image to start with. A struggling ventricle. It immediately makes the machine biological,
It does.
It makes the journey feel like a medical crisis, not a commute. And I think that just perfectly sets the atmospheric tone for what we're unpacking today.
It really does.
We are leaving behind the noise and the anonymity of the city, specifically the gray sandstone of Edinburgh, and we are heading to a place that one of our sources describes as a moonscape.
A moonscape.
Yeah.
That does not sound particularly welcoming. We're going to the Isle of Lewis. And we're doing it through the eyes of this young man, John-Calum, or Cal. Now, usually when we talk about going back to an island, there's a sense of romance, isn't there? Escaping the rat race, finding a simpler life. But this deep dive is, well, it's not that.
No, definitely not. This is a greedy, deeply emotional exploration of what it means to go back to a place that formed you, even when that place doesn't seem to have room for who you've become. It connects to this profound core concept of island life versus mainland life. There is a quote from Donald Macleod in the source material that really just stopped me in my tracks.
I think I know the one you're talking about. It's this one about exile?
Yes, that's the one. He writes, "Islanders the world over are born for exile. Islands give you a privileged childhood, and then, once they've made you what you are, leave you with no place to express it."
That is just incredibly bleak. Born for exile.
Yeah.
It sounds almost biblical. But I have to ask, is that actually true, or is that just the melodrama of the protagonist? Is the island really kicking people out, or are they just leaving because they want Starbucks and better Wi-Fi?
Well, that's the tension, isn't it? Is it an expulsion, or is it an escape? In Cal's case, and in the broader context of Hebridean literature, it's often portrayed as a necessity.
A necessity how?
The economy of the island, the social structure, it's all designed for a very specific type of person. And if you deviate from that, if you want to be an artist, or if you're gay, or if you just, talk too much, the island physically cannot contain you.
Right.
You have to leave to express it, as Macleod says. But the tragedy, the real gut punch, is that once you leave, you realize you don't quite fit on the mainland either. You're this kind of hybrid creature.
So you're stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
Which is exactly where we find Cal at the beginning of the story. He's on the ferry. He's in transit. Let's talk about his prodigal son return. Because usually the prodigal son comes back and everyone's happy.
Right. Kill the fatted calf. Throw a party.
Yeah. But there's absolutely no fatted calf here.
There's barely even a hello.
There's just shame.
Yeah.
Let's look at Cal himself. He's in his early 20s. He's been away at art school in Edinburgh. Visuals are important here. How does he look against this backdrop of gray rain and gray sea?
He looks like a glitch in the Matrix. The source describes him wearing charity shop clothes, this nylon shirt with a noisy medallion print, a green bomber jacket that's held together with an electrician's tape.
Electrician's tape? That's such a specific detail.
It really is. It speaks to a kind of, performative poverty, or maybe just real poverty that he's trying to mask as style. But the real signifier is the hair.
Yeah.
You cannot miss the hair.
Okay, tell me about the hair.
It's described as platinum blonde that's growing out into an angry matchstick orange with dark roots.
That sounds aggressive.
It is. It's like a timeline on his head. The platinum blonde was the aspiration, the art student, the new man, the reinvention in the city.
Right.
The orange and the dark roots, that's the reality catching up. It's a visual representation of a transformation that just got stuck halfway. He tried to reinvent himself on the mainland, and now the roots are showing literally and figuratively. He's bringing his costume back to a place where everyone wears wool and waterproofs.
Speaking of waterproofs, The contrast on the ferry is pretty stark, isn't it? You've got the locals, and then you've got the tourists, the townies.
Oh, the townies are fascinating because they treat the weather as part of the experience, you know? They're in their bright North Face anoraks, probably thinking the rough seas are thrilling.
They're on an adventure.
Exactly. But for the islanders, they are quiet. They're reading Bibles or tabloids. They are just resigned. They know the sea isn't a ride, it's a barrier.
And Cal is caught between these two worlds. He's dressed like a city kid, but he knows all the island rules.
Yeah.
But there's something else going on with him internally, isn't there? He's not just anxious, he's altered.
Right. And this is a detail that changes how you read the whole opening scene. Cal takes an ecstasy pill before getting on the ferry.
Okay, let's just stop there for a second. Why? I mean, I'm not an expert on recreational drug use, but isn't ecstasy a club drug? You take it to dance. Why would you possibly take it to sit on a freezing ferry for 3 hours just staring at the rain?
It's definitely not for the party, and this is what makes it so tragic. He's using it as a buffer. He's trying to manufacture a feeling of warmth.
A chemical warmth.
Precisely. Ecstasy chemically creates a sense of empathy, of connection, of tightness in the body. He's terrified of the cold reception he's about to get, so he's trying to chemically induce a feeling of coming home that he knows the reality isn't going to offer him.
So he's preloading warmth because he knows he's walking into a freezer.
Exactly. He wants that tight feeling to combat the anxiety. He's trying to prepare himself for the capricious, implacable sea. But it's such a fragile shield. As soon as the drug starts to wear off or the reality of the island intrudes, that chemical hug just dissipates.
And reality intrudes pretty fast in the form of a woman from Shawbost. This scene made me physically cringe.
Oh, it's so uncomfortable.
Cal is trying so hard to be invisible. He's got his lime green knitted cap pulled down. He's trying to hide in his row. And this woman just zeroes in on him.
Well, she offers him a sugary pastille first.
Which is a nice gesture, right?
Yeah.
Or is it?
It's a dual gesture, I think. On one hand, it's island hospitality, but on the other, she sees he's grinding his teeth from the drugs. She knows something is off with him. She's managing him.
And then she drops the hammer.
She does. She asks the ultimate island question, who do you belong to?
Not what's your name or where do you work, but who do you belong to?
That distinction is so vital. It's all about sloineracht.
Sloineracht, that's the Gaelic concept of lineage, right?
Yes. In this culture, you are not an individual atom just floating in space. You are a coordinate on a family map. Your identity is entirely dependent on the people who came before you. So when she asks that, she's really saying, I can't place you until I know your dead relatives.
It's intense.
Yeah.
And Cal knows the rules. He doesn't say, I'm Cal, I'm an artist. He recites the title of the book. He says, I'm John of Ian of Presbyterian.
Which translates to John, son of Ian, the weaver. And just think about what that does to a person's ego. In an instant, Cal, the guy with the dyed hair and the secrets, he just evaporates. He's the third iteration of a John. He is a sequel.
And the woman's reaction, she doesn't say, nice to meet you.
No, she says, I know you.
I know you. It's so suffocating.
It is. She knows his grandfather. She knows his history. She even knows his grandmother, Ella, calling her a right one. This is the terrifying aspect of small communities. We often romanticize the everyone knows your name thing as cozy.
Right, like the theme song from Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for Cal, it's a prison. It means he cannot reinvent himself because the community's memory is longer than his entire life.
He compares the city to a video game later on, saying he misses the anonymity.
Exactly. In a video game, or a big city like Edinburgh, you can be an NPC, a non-player character. You can walk down the street and nobody perceives you. That's a kind of freedom. On the island, you are always the main character in a story everyone else is writing for you.
So let's get to the man waiting at the end of this drug-fueled ferry ride. The first John in that chain, his father, John Macleod.
John is just a powerhouse of a character. He's the archetype of the Highland stoic, but Douglas Stuart gives him so much nuance. Visually, he's striking. He's described as having fine bones and looking like he belongs in the men's section of a Littlewoods catalog.
So he's handsome. He's got that brooding, dark-haired look.
Very handsome. But the text says he is wasted on a life of religious asceticism. He has the face of a movie star, but the life of a monk.
Let's talk about how he and Cal communicate. Or maybe how they don't. Because while Cal was away in Edinburgh, they had this system called the 3 pips.
This just broke my heart. It's a masterclass in emotional economy born of pure poverty. Long-distance calls from a phone box were expensive back then. They just didn't have the money to chat.
Right.
So they developed a code. Cal would call the home phone at a specific time. He would let it ring 3 times, pip, 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 and then he would hang up.
And that just meant, I'm alive.
Yes. If the phone rang 3 times, Cal was okay. If it didn't ring, well, you can imagine the panic.
It reminds me of read receipts in texting today, but just way, way sadder. It reduces the relationship to a binary signal, alive or dead. There's no room for I'm struggling, or I met someone, or even I'm happy.
None. Just I exist. And it trains them to accept the bare minimum of connection. So when they do actually speak, they don't know how to go beyond that binary. When Cal gets off the ferry, the dialogue is just painful. Fine. And you. Not bad. Upright. Thank God.
Upright, thank God. That's the bar. Verticality.
In John's world, yes. Survival is the success. Endurance is the virtue. Feelings are just whether you have to wait out.
But John isn't just a robot. There's a real complexity to him, specifically around music and religion. He's a precentor in the church. Now, for those of us who aren't experts in Scottish Presbyterianism, what does that actually mean?
So we're talking about the Free Presbyterian Church of Scotland here. The Wee Frees, as they're sometimes known, though that can cover a few different schisms. The key thing to know is no instruments.
No organ, no piano.
Nothing. Definitely no guitar. They believe instruments obscure the word of God.
So it's all a cappella.
Strictly speaking, yes. The precentor is the man who leads the singing of the Gaelic psalms. He stands up and he sings the line, the melody, and the congregation follows him. But it's not like a choir you might be picturing. Doesn't really have a beat. It's more like a swell. It sounds like the ocean. It just rises and falls.
And the source says John has a beautiful voice.
Lyrical, beautiful, incantatory. This is the huge contradiction of this character. His speaking voice is harsh, clipped, judgmental, but when he sings the psalms, he is allowed to be expressive. He's allowed to be beautiful. It's the only outlet for his emotion, but it has to be filtered through this very strict religious observance.
Which brings us to the Karen Carpenter incident. This scene felt like such a collision of worlds. Cal tries to turn on the car radio, right?
He does, and Karen Carpenter is on. Sweet, sweet smile.
A banger. You can't hate Karen Carpenter.
You can if you believe secular music is a distraction from God. John turns it off immediately. But his reasoning is really interesting. He acknowledges she has a great voice, a fine contralto. He appreciates the instrument.
So he knows it's good.
He does. But he says it's a waste of a God-given voice to sing about sin.
His sweet, sweet smile about sin. It's pretty innocent pop music.
To John, anything that isn't glorifying God is technically a waste. It represents the intrusion of the soft, secular world into his hard, sacred world. He suppresses his own potential enjoyment because of his dogma, and he imposes that suppression on Cal. He's basically saying, if I can't have joy, you can't have it either.
But then, despite all this hardness, he's there at the ferry terminal. He waited in the rain. He brought the car. He didn't leave Cal stranded.
And that's the complex love we mentioned. He shows up. He puts a roof over Cal's head, but he can't touch him. The greeting at the car is just excruciating. He clapped him twice on the back as though he was colicky.
Like burping a baby.
Exactly. He treats his adult son like a sick infant because that's the only physical context he understands for touching another male. He just doesn't have the vocabulary for a hug. It's a language he never learned.
Wow. Yeah. Well, if John is the silence, the grandmother, Ella, is the noise. She seems like a complete force of nature.
Ella is the buffer. She's the third point in this triangle. But she's a matriarch in decline. The description of her is almost grotesque in its realism. It mentions her purple feet and her legs swollen like rising dough.
That's a really tough image.
It's the reality of aging in a place with, poor health care and a very hard life. She's failing physically, but her spirit is completely intact. She smokes, she talks back, and when Cal walks in, she's the only one who offers any physical affection. She squeezes his cheeks until she brings his lips up in a blister.
That sounds painful. A little bit.
It's aggressive love. It's fierce. She's claiming him. She doesn't care about the dyed hair or the failure. She just sees her grandson.
But even her relationship with the family is governed by the economics of the island. There's the tenor scene. This part made me really uncomfortable because it felt like elder abuse for a second. John demands 10 pounds from her.
It walks that line, doesn't it? John demands 10 pounds from Ella to pay for Cal's travel from the ferry. He basically shakes down his own mother-in-law. But we have to look at why. Is he being mean? No, I don't think so. He's being desperate. They literally do not have the cash.
It just highlights the extreme poverty they're living in. It's not just that they are thrifty, they are absolutely broke.
Right. And the 10-pound note becomes this really significant object. It's survival. But notice Ella's reaction to Cal during this. She knows. She knows he's back because he failed. She knows he's broke. He doesn't have to say a word.
But she doesn't judge him.
No, instead of judging him, she hands him a handkerchief.
A handkerchief?
It's a gesture of dignity. She's wiping away his shame. She understands that he's humiliated, and she offers him a soft place to land. She is the only source of unconditional acceptance in that whole house.
So they're all trapped in this house at the out end. The setting itself seems like it's actively trying to kill them.
Out end. The name says it all, doesn't it? It's at the very end of the road. And the house is cracking. Literally.
This detail really stressed me out. John tracks a crack in the wall with a pencil.
Yeah. It's like a doomsday clock.
Mm-hmm.
He marks the date and the length of the fissure. He's just watching his home slowly tear itself apart. It symbolizes the slow, inevitable collapse of their way of life. The land is eroding. The source mentions the Insula Ventorum, the island of winds.
That sounds like something from a fantasy novel.
It was on an old atlas Cal loved as a kid, but the reality is brutal. The land is falling into the sea. There's that incredible anecdote about the caravan.
Oh, the caravan tune.
Yes, someone had a caravan that got blown over by the wind, and instead of moving it or fixing it, John just bricked it up with rocks to keep it from blowing away again. So now there's just a caravan buried in a cairn of stones.
That is the perfect metaphor for this place. If you stay still too long, the island will just bury you in rocks.
And Cal feels that. He longs for the city. He explicitly mentions missing street corners.
Why street corners? That's an interesting detail.
Well, think about what a street corner represents. It's a grid. It's a choice. You can go left, you can go right. It implies possibility and a system. On the island, the road just ends. You are either on the road, or you're in the bog, or you are in the sea. The landscape itself acts as an antagonist. It limits your movement.
Speaking of people who are limited, we have to talk about the neighbors, the McGinnis brothers. Innes and Sorley. This part was funny, but in a really, really dark way.
It's pure Beckett. It's Waiting for Godot and the Hebrides. You have two brothers living in the same small house who have not spoken to each other in 16 years.
16 years, but they still eat dinner together.
They share a table, they sit by the fire, but they communicate via a system called carbon copy.
Explain that system to me.
They speak to the air, or they use a third party like Cal as a relay. So one of them will say to the room, I wonder if the roof is leaking. And the other one will say to the wall, I have ordered slate from the builder.
It's absurd. It's so childish.
It is absurd, but it's also terrifying. It's island stubbornness taken to its terminal conclusion. This is what happens when you let silence calcify. They are incapable of forgiveness. They would rather live in this surreal, hostile silence than say, I'm sorry.
And for Cal, looking at them, that's got to be like looking at a ghost story.
Exactly. He's looking at his potential future. Is this him and John in 20 years? Just two men in a crumbling house talking to the air because they can't face each other. It just raises the stakes of his return. If he stays, he becomes them.
So why is he back? We touched on it, but let's really dig into the failure of the art school dream. He was supposed to be the bright one.
He was the great white hope of the family, the first Macleod to ever go to university. And John was proud, but also deeply suspicious. Because to a man like John, self-expression, the whole goal of art school is dangerous. You were supposed to express God's will, not your own.
And Cal's experience at art school seems to kind of prove John right. The description of the art students knitting vulvas and the lecturer in ski goggles. It sounds like a parody of the art world.
It captures the pretension perfectly. Cal enters this space thinking he's going to find freedom, find his people, but he just finds a different kind of performance. He realizes that the art world is just as rigid in its codes as the church is. You have to dress a certain way, think a certain way, and he doesn't fit there either.
So he drops out. But he didn't tell anyone. He lies for months.
And this is the shame. He spends months pretending to still be a student. But in reality, he's cleaning toilets.
The source mentions he's cleaning for a group of Romanian women.
Yes, he's become part of the invisible workforce of the city. He's scrubbing floors, and emotionally, he's just scraping by too. He mentions sleeping with a gentle Welshman just for the comfort of being held. He calls it devotional helplessness.
That phrase, devotional helplessness, It sounds like he's looking for a savior, or at least just a warm body to hide behind.
He's looking for someone to take the burden of being Cal off his shoulders for a few hours. And financially, he's completely ruined. The overdraft statements are covering the kitchen table. He returns with nothing but debt.
In a Calvinist culture like that, debt isn't just a financial problem, is it? It's a moral failing.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, no man anything. Debt is sin. It means you lack discipline. So he's returning not just poor, but morally compromised in the eyes of his father. He feels like a total fraud.
There's one more relationship we really need to unpack. The path not taken. Doll MacDonald.
Doll is so crucial. He was Cal's childhood best friend. The source calls him the golden retriever to Cal's moodiness. They were inseparable.
Right, they watched Top Gun and Terminator under cushions. There was this real intimacy there.
A deep intimacy.
Yeah.
But now, Doll stayed. He's a fisherman. He's functional.
That's a good word for it. The contrast in masculinity is so stark.
Yeah.
Doll is working the creels. He's wearing an orange safety jacket. His body has a purpose. It pulls things from the sea. And Cal's wearing his good church shoes on the slipway. He's sliding around on the scum. He is ornamental. He serves no purpose on the island.
None whatsoever.
And the scene on the slipway it's electric. And so uncomfortable. Cal tries to bridge that gap.
He does, but he does it in the only way he knows how now. He makes a pass. He says, I'll suck you off if you want.
Whoa. That is just so direct and desperate.
It's incredibly desperate. It's not romance. It's a transaction.
Yeah.
He's offering his body, the only thing he has left, to try and reclaim a connection. Or maybe he just wants to be used to be obliterated for a moment, like with the drugs.
And Doll's reaction, he doesn't punch him. He doesn't scream homophobic slurs.
You know, he just says, no, thanks.
Thanks. That polite dismissal is so much worse than a punch, isn't it?
So much worse. A punch would acknowledge that Cal is a threat, or that the moment even matters. No thanks treats it like he offered him a cup of tea he didn't want. It completely dismisses Cal's sexuality and his desperation. It shifts the power dynamic. Doll is the adult. Cal is the messy child.
It forces Cal to realize that intimacy is completely gone. They can't go back to watching Top Gun. Doll has grown up into an island man. Cal has grown sideways?
Exactly. The rejection on the slipway is the final door closing. He realizes he can't go back to who he was, but he also hasn't become who he wanted to be.
I want to zoom out for a second. We've talked about silence a lot, but there's a specific physical manifestation of silence in this book that I found fascinating. The Harris gasp.
Oh, the pulmonic ingression. Yes. This is a real linguistic phenomenon, common in the Highlands and Scandinavia. It's when you speak while inhaling.
So instead of breathing out to say I, you suck air in.
Yes. It sounds like a gasp.
Huh. Why do they do that?
Well, anthropologically, it's often seen as a way to soften agreement or to keep the flow of conversation without interrupting. But in the context of this story, it feels so metaphorical. They are literally speaking by swallowing their words back into themselves.
Oh.
They're afraid to let anything out. They keep their breath and their feelings inside the ribcage.
An internalized speech. That is perfect.
Yeah.
And it connects so well to the broader theme of religion versus identity. The Bible is just everywhere here.
It is. John lives by the word of God.
Yeah.
And that word is in direct conflict with Cal's nature. To John, Cal's homosexuality isn't just a lifestyle. It's a nature of the beast. It's a fundamental flaw in his design.
And yet, and this is the part that makes the book so good, John still loves him. He bought him that high-resolution atlas when he was a kid. He puts the stew on the table.
That's the tragedy. John's morality is rigid, but his heart is elastic. He tracks the crack in the wall because he's terrified of the house falling down. He's terrified of his family falling apart. He can't say, I love you, but he can say, you owe me a tenner or put on a coat. In his world, care is demonstrated through protection and correction, not affirmation.
We also have to mention the class system here. We talked about the townies, but there's also the landlords.
The aristocracy. The source mentions a family with a lispy chef and failed pop stars who come up from London to stalk deer.
It creates this almost feudal atmosphere. You have Macleods scraping for pennies, and then these wealthy people who are just using the island as a playground.
It reinforces Cal's entrapment. He tried to escape the working class by going to art school, but he failed. Now he's back among the crofters, but he's looking at the landlords. He sees the economic ceiling of the island. The debt letters he's hiding are just the modern version of the indentured servitude his ancestors might have felt.
So bringing this all together, John of John. It's a story about a father and a son who are just stuck. They're stuck in the rain, stuck in debt, stuck in their inability to talk to each other.
It is a tragedy of proximity. They are physically close living in the same small, cracking house, but emotionally they are on different planets. They possess no language to bridge the gap between who they are and who they need to be for each other.
And yet, Cal is home.
He is, and that's the final, really complicated thought. The source suggests that home isn't necessarily a place of comfort. It's the place where you are most known. And because you are known, your lineage, your grandfather, your failures, you are also most trapped.
It's a heavy thought to leave us with. We always say you can't go home again. But maybe the truth is you can go home, but home might not let you be anyone else.
And if you strip away the ability to speak your truth, if you can't say who you are or tell the person you love that you love them, does the love underneath actually survive? Or does it just calcify, like those rocks on the shoreline?
Does it become a hair's gasp, something you just swallow instead of share?
Precisely. Is home a shelter, or is it just a tomb we brick up to keep the wind out?